Okay, today we're going to work on polynomial inequalities. So to first solve a polynomial, we have to know what it is. You guys are very adept at solving quadratics, but today we are going to concentrate on polynomials of a degree greater than 2. Now, when we talk about degree, okay, what we are talking about is we're talking about the biggest exponent. So a quadratic, write it as an equation, has a degree of 2. Okay, and then what we would call a cubic has a degree of 3. Okay, a quartic has a degree of 4. And so on. Okay, now, you guys in Math 2 got very proficient at doing these. We're going to concentrate on equations that look more like this. Okay, we're going to work on equations first, and then we'll work on inequalities. Okay, so first thing you got to know is something called the fundamental theorem of algebra. Okay, so basically the fundamental theorem of algebra says that if you have a polynomial of a certain degree, then it will have that same number of solutions counting multiplicity. Now, we'll talk about multiplicity in a moment. It will come up. So that means if I got a polynomial of degree 3, I should have 3 solutions. Okay. If I have a polynomial of degree 4, I should have 4 solutions. Okay. These solutions do not have to be distinct, nor do they have to be real. So your solutions can go into the complex numbers. So expect I to show up. Okay. All right. We have various ways that we can solve polynomial equations. Okay. First way, always ask yourself if you can factor something out. Okay. You'll see what I mean in a minute. The second way is you're going to use a graph to help you out. Okay. Third way is something called the rational root theorem. Okay. And we will probably do that last. Okay. These are not quick problems to solve. So what we're going to try to do is we're going to try to solve equations and then kind of move that along into inequalities. So let's just jump right in. Okay, so we're going to do an easier one first. Okay. All right. So I want to solve x to the third plus 2x squared minus 3x. Okay, so first thing I notice, this is a degree 3. Okay, so according to the fundamental theorem of algebra, I should expect 3 solutions. Okay, counting multiplicity, which may or may not come up. All right, now looking at my equation, I know that every term has an x. So that tells me that I can factor out an x. Now, if I look at what's left behind, which is this guy right here, okay, I notice that that is a quadratic. I also notice that it is factorable. So, bringing down my x, because I don't want to lose that, I can factor that to x plus 3 times x minus 1. So that's nice and factored. Okay, now we have something called the zero product property, which says that if you multiply a bunch of stuff and you get a 0, something must be 0. So I can take each one of these factors and set them equal to 0. Like that. So x equals 0 is an answer. Then if I solve this guy, I get x is equal to negative 3. And then if I solve the last one, I get x is equal to 1. Okay, so that tells me that I have found my 3 answers. 1, 2, 3. I am done. Okay, all right, let's do another one. Okay, again, we're going to keep with factoring. The next lesson will deal with something that is not as straightforward. Okay, so I'm going to solve this guy. Okay, again, I notice it's degree 3. So I should expect 3 solutions. I also notice that each factor has an x and it's divisible by 2. So I'm going to go ahead and factor out a 2x. So that gives me that. Okay, now notice that what is left behind is a quadratic that is factorable, so that's nice. Okay, I need to think of 2 numbers that multiply to negative 2 but combine to give me a negative 1, and that is bringing down your 2x. Don't forget that. Like that. All right, so now using the zero product property, set each factor equal to 0. And I get x equals 0, x equals 2, x equals negative 1. So there are my 3 answers. Again, I have a degree of 3. So I know that I'm done. Okay? All right, we're going to try a third one. Okay? All right, these first 2 were fairly straightforward. We're going to do something that is not quite that straightforward right now. Okay? So move this up. All right, let's say I have 5x cubed plus 4x squared minus 3x equals 0. Okay, so now I notice that I have degree 3. I should expect 3 answers. Okay, so now I factor out an x. Okay, so we're thinking this is pretty cool. I can do this. All right, now I have to think of two numbers that multiply to negative 15 and add to give me 4, which is not possible. Okay, so I still need to solve this part. This is a quadratic. It obeys the quadratic formula. So what I'm going to do is take this little part of my equation, 5x squared plus 4x minus 3 equals 0, and I'm going to use x is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. All right, let's see what that gets us. X is equal to negative 4 plus or minus 4 squared minus 4 times 5 times a negative 3 all over 2 times 5. Negative 4 plus or minus, let's see, that would be 16. Negative 4 times a positive 5 is negative 20, times a negative 3 is positive 60, all over 10. Okay. So if I simplify that, okay, and then what I can do is I can go down the rabbit hole of simplifying. So 72 is divisible by 4, I believe. Let's see. Do some scratch work over here. Yep. So this is all just reducing. Okay, this is making your answer look kind of pretty. And then reduce it. Okay, so now you actually have your 3 answers. So remember, if we go back here, we know that x is equal to 0. Okay, don't forget your x. Then from our quadratic, which we brought over here and used the quadratic formula, we actually got our 2 remaining answers of negative 2 plus the square root of 19 all over 5, and then x is equal to negative 2 minus the square root of 19 all over 5. So again, we have our 3 answers, 1, 2, 3, and it was a degree 3, so that's what I should expect. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to use a graph to help us out. All right, so stay tuned.